Hi everyone, Charles from The Food People here. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. It's my great pleasure to welcome founder of ManiLife Peanut Butter, Stu Macdonald. Stu joins me today to talk about, well, the fascinating world of peanuts, delicious peanut butter, his journey to starting ManiLife, the why behind the brand, and of course, what's next. Welcome, Stu. It's great to have you here as part of Food People in Conversation with.
Hey, Charles, absolute pleasure to be here too. Very excited.
Good
Thanks
stuff.
for having me.
It's a pleasure. At the Food People, we're very clear about what we do and why we do it. We're champions of change, driven every day by our intent to shift the future of food and drink by harnessing the power of trends. And this In Conversation With series is all about talking to people and brands and businesses and entrepreneurs across the spectrum of food and drink to find out more about why they do what they do, how in their way they're championing change and shifting the future of food and drink. So, Stu, it's great to be speaking to you today. Let's get started. And I think a great start point is tell us a bit about you and your journey to be founder of peanut butter brand ManiLife.
Thanks, Charles. So I guess the true kickoff point is that I got very ill at school when I was about 15, 16. And I think from that point, something kind of flipped and I had this, not chip on my shoulder, but basically had this desire to do something a bit left field, a bit special.
Yeah.
And so when I left university, I was offered a job as an accountant, which couldn't be further away from that as possible. So I decided to put that job off and move to Argentina, where the idea I was basically going to go there and build up enough guilt to be an accountant for 3 years. Fell into working with a peanut butter social enterprise, got convinced the product, met the people behind the peanut estate that we still source from to this day, fell in love with them. Their product was amazing. Looked at the market back home, saw that it was growing, but no one was speaking about peanut butter the same way we speak about coffee or chocolate. There was no provenance to it. So I came home in May 2015, put off the job again, and basically started ManiLife, where the idea was it was going to be the world's first provenance-led peanut butter brand. And it was a complete disaster. We imported a ton of peanuts, and the day they arrived, our production partner pulled out. So I had a ton of peanuts in my bedroom with no one to make it. Anyway, that summer I got together with 45 friends, rented out my old rugby club kitchen, and we spent the entire summer making 4,000 jars of peanut butter, one jar at a time, which was hideous for me. I think my friends quite enjoyed it. But what it meant is we transitioned from what was ultimately going to be like a provenance-led brand to one that was genuinely and authentically craft, that made the products in a way different to everyone else.
Yeah.
That lasted the summer. I started my job as an accountant, learned lots, didn't really like it that much. And 11 months later, I quit. And then lots of stuff happened between now and then, but here we are.
Amazing. So Argentina, tell us a little bit about Argentina and why Argentina? Why did what even kind of took you out there?
The reason I went to Argentina originally was amazing food and just really, really, really great people. I'd been there before a few years previously. And one of the things that Argentina has that I think has kind of altered my perception of, I guess, food is that the two most consumed things in Argentina are mate and asado, which is basically barbecue. And they can't be eaten alone. Like a mate you drink in a circle, obviously barbecues all together. Yeah. And so there's very much this kind of food occasion culture, which is much more about bringing people together than it is about the food itself. Yeah. So I was transformed, kind of opened up, became a much more loving person after Argentina, which is good.
And you mentioned the peanuts social enterprise. What made you get involved? How did you get involved in that?
So it's probably that kind of I guess chip on my shoulder, wanting to do something a bit left field. Basically, I'd arrived, I was teaching English, doing probably partying quite a lot, and I was like, this is not boring but quite standard. So I went on Gumtree and saw this ad. It was a guy called Chris Sorrentino. I haven't spoken for 2 years, but lovely guy. Met him in a cafe and that was it. He was like, can't pay you anything, but this is what we're doing. And I just kind of cracked on. It was amazing. Like, yeah, Gumtree changed my life. It's pretty cool.
That's incredible. I mean, I've got lots of kind of questions about peanut butter and peanut butter, kind of the peanuts themselves and all of that kind of thing. But before we get into that, how do you describe ManiLife? What is the brand all about, and what is it trying to do?
The way I usually describe it is, so do you like coffee? Are you a coffee drinker?
Yeah.
Do you remember like the first cup of coffee you had back in the days, like Nescafe?
Yeah. Yes. I do. Yes.
Do you remember the switch when you had that first like delicious cup of like, I don't know, that's like, this is kind of showing my privilege, but like all pressed flat white.
Yeah.
And do you comprehend how much more coffee you drink now than you did when you were drinking Nescafe?
Yeah.
We're that all press like mega coffee. So that's, and basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to elevate peanut butter to the levels that you see coffee, chocolate in today.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's through basically making better products, but it's through things like small batch production, single estate sourcing, flavors through like process more than ingredients.
Yeah.
And in essence, our kind of like reason for being is we want to make the best tasting product. We want to bring joy to the masses, and we want to do no unnecessary harm, or at least that's the aspiration.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. And it's been tough, but it's pretty fun.
And is that how you describe your why? You know, I mean, part of this podcast is about exploring why you do what you do.
Yeah, exactly. I think the thing which kind of has always got me up in the morning is it's like making people happy, which sounds so corny, but it's like, if I think about the stuff that energizes me, it's going to events, meet consumers, it's like creating little moments of joy. So there's an example that I always kind of think back to was when we were starting the brand. I got a call from this woman who was just like mad for ManiLife, and she was saying, and it wasn't a call, actually, it was an email saying that she was going into labor, but that like it was her favorite product. And so we arranged for an Uber to drop a jar of ManiLife at the hospital so that she could have it after she gave birth. And it was just like it, and we got a picture of like her baby and it was awesome. So there's loads of things like that, which I think is like the essence of the brand.
Yeah. And when you think about the things that make it really special, the kind of the building blocks of the brand, what do you see those building blocks as?
Not afraid to say the best product. And what that stems from is ultimately like care, but it's sourcing the best peanuts in the world from like the champagne of peanuts, the area of Cordoba, which is like it's a certified origin. Then we roast like very, very specifically. We were the first brand in the world to launch a dark roast, deep roast peanut butter, and from there have like developed expertise in it pretty aggressively. A big difference from a product perspective as well is we are the only mainstream brand in the country to produce in batches. Everyone else produces in line mills, so like the process is completely different. So that's product. And then from like a people cultural perspective, it's just like keeping it really personal. So like those little moments, I actually quite enjoy getting complaints because I call them up and they're always like really delighted to be speaking to like the boss of the brand. It's funny, I think people probably think we're way bigger than we are. So when they get that call, they love it. So yeah, people and product.
People and product. Well, let's just talk about product for a minute. Can you just tell us a little bit more about the peanuts and the sourcing? You talked then about being the champagne of peanuts. What makes? I'm assuming, well, you've already highlighted it starts with a great raw material, but what makes great peanuts?
So there's a word that I can't say without sounding like an absolute, but it's like terroir, so it's the same as wine. So which basically like the soil, the climate, and rainfall. So that's kind of the foundation of a quality crop. There are a few places in the world with optimum that, and Cordoba just happens to be like the best of the best. So that's the kind of raw material, the raw ingredients to give potential for the crop. And then when the peanuts are harvested, similar to coffee, there's like a huge variation in grade. And basically the process it goes through is they're shelled, they're cleaned, and then they're kind of sorted into different sizes and quality grades.
Yeah.
The peanut that ManiLife buys is something called a 3842 blanched whole peanut. And that peanut is sorted to such a degree that at the end of the line, there's actually a person hand sorting with a kind of shovel to get our peanuts out. So it's like, next level quality business.
And they how are they even harvested? The peanuts grown to the ground, right?
Yeah, so grown in ground. The harvest is 180 days, planted in October, November time, harvested April, May time.
Yeah, okay.
It's like a legume, right? So it's how you harvest beans. What's actually really interesting is, so there's two belts they're called peanut belts. You've got like Virginia latitudes, which is like China, India, all that's the belt for the Northern Hemisphere. Southern Hemisphere is the Cordoba, a bit north of that, bit south of that.
Yeah.
And you've got areas of South Africa, you've got areas of Australia. But what's happening is, because global warming is really taking hold, our estate is having to buy up land south of the belt to kind of keep up. So the last two harvests have not been good. And it's down to global warming.
So that's the raw materials.
Yeah.
What about the actual process of making the peanut butter? So the peanuts come to you say blanch. So all the roasting happens here in the UK, right?
Yeah. So blanching is basically taking the skins off. Arrives. We have a roastery in London, which, without giving too much away, like it's high temperatures, like specific specs. We measure the roast via not like kind of dials how we set up the roaster, but it's basically something called a spectrometer, which assesses the color, and that's kind of our measuring rod for roast. And then it goes to our blending sites, and this is where ManiLife is like truly unique. So there's two ways to make peanut butter. One, as I said earlier, one is inline milling. The other is our way, which is batch blending. When you make inline milled peanut butter, you basically set a micron size, which is like grain size, and press the button. Whereas when you batch blend, there's like 10 factors that impact the quality and the texture of the product. And then we do something a bit special with our front, so I'm not allowed to talk about
that. And therefore, because it's batch, do you blend in the same way that you would do, like blend wine, if you like? So is that
I mean, with slightly sharper blades, but essentially that, like, so peanut butter comes from it's essentially like releasing the oils that are naturally contained within a peanut. Like, it's pretty amazing. When we eventually meet, we'll take you down to our kind of test kitchens and show you. Is an incredible transformation and like mind-boggling. And the good thing about batch blending as well is that you can see it happening, whereas in line mill it all happens in like a kind of contained vessel.
No, I mean it sounds amazing, and I guess that's where the magic happens. I guess that's the
absolutely. That is where a lot of the magic happens, Charles. You're right.
We're real fans in our house of the deep roast. Can you just tell us how that came about?
This was absolute magic. So like early days, Rugby Club kitchen, we used to roast the nuts in like a combi oven. And essentially we overcooked them.
Really?
And I was thinking, I don't have to like bin this. But one of my friends just said, let's blend it up and see. So we blended it up, we tasted it, and we were like, oh my God, this is amazing. So we kind of sat in a circle and we were thinking, like, what's the best name we can think of for burnt? And deep roast was that name. took it to a market, sold out in like a few hours, and yeah, that product has like changed peanut butter globally.
Yeah.
So every brand in the UK has their equivalent. There's a brand called Jif, which is like the biggest peanut butter brand in the world. They now have one, and it was like a few lads in the kitchen basically messing around that started that. So it's pretty cool.
It is. It's such a great product, and really does take it to another dimension. All those kind of rich, deep caramelly notes. It's a super product.
Well, again, it's like coffee. Like you've got Starbucks, you've got Starbucks roast. They've just released the blonde roast.
Yeah.
Like there's a huge spectrum, and I actually think that's one of the directions that ManiLife is going to take peanut butter, is like broadening that spectrum.
Yeah.
And where I kind of see it is like different origins being complemented with different roasts.
Yeah.
And it's like so different. So we're looking at a farm in Brazil, just because I know it's good to kind of keep your ears to the floor. And we trying that stuff, and it's like completely different to the stuff we got from Argentina.
Is it? I was just going to say, is it that different? You know, different peanuts, different from different origins, different parts of the world. It's that discernible. The difference is that discernible.
Yeah, and then you've got America is also completely different. Australia and Argentina are quite similar, to be fair, but yeah.
The other combo that my teenage daughters in particular like is the peanut chocolate combo. Was that for you just like a natural marriage, or how did that combination come about?
So we developed the deep roast smooth for Hotel Chocolat, so like goes really well with chocolate. And we hadn't launched new products in a while, so we thought cocoa peanut butter sounds good. And about, I think it was well over 12 months actually, so well over 12 months later, we had found what we still believe to be the best cocoa in the world. And that's kind of the foundation of the product. So we source the cocoa from an amazing guy called Simran, based in Tanzania. He runs like a cooperative of farms, and every container of cocoa beans we buy comes with like a charter of the names of the farmers. Like it's pretty cool, which again is like coffee style. Really good product.
It is a really good product actually, and I wondered what the story was, and funny enough, I went through a period of years where I used to have a piece of sourdough toast, and on half of it I had some Marmite, on the other half I had a crunchy peanut butter, and the bit I enjoyed most of all was the bit in the middle where they both met.
Exactly.
Kind of fusion of the two.
We're gonna chat about food pairings in a bit, I think, and that is a fundamental food pairing.
What's your kind of vision, I suppose, for the way the category can go? I mean, 10 years ago it was two very mainstreamed, highly processed brands. Now it's much more complex, much more nuanced. Where do you think it is in its evolution, and I guess what do you think your role is in taking that to the next stage?
So you're right, like 10 years ago it was toast, then it became more breakfast occasions. My vision for peanut butter is to like take it well beyond breakfast. So I want to move it from like a kind of cupboard ingredient that generally sat at the back of the cupboard, just moving slightly forward to like a kitchen staple. And one of the ways we are doing that is basically like dialing up the foodiness of peanut butter. So we work with loads of chefs. We have really strong relationships with restaurant companies like Gusto, Mindful Chef. Penguin Publishing actually approached us to do a cookbook quite recently. So that's later this year. And it's just like turning it from a snack into an ingredient, which also fits my like kind of ethos better, because one of the things that really excited me about Argentina was like getting people together around a table. And generally to date, peanut butter has been consumed very quickly, kind of almost on the go. So I'm really excited about like the kind of culinary expansion of peanut butter.
Well, and I think that's a great segue into kind of food pairings, really.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're all used to spreading peanut butter on toast, but anyone that's done any cooking or experimented with food knows that the application of peanut butter can go far beyond that. What are some of your kind of favorite peanut butter recipes besides obviously spreading it on toast at breakfast?
Yeah, so there are so many, right? So breakfast, you've got I guess like porridge is one which makes way better. Smoothies, but that's kind of a bit boring. You then got the classic like Asian dishes, which satays, pretty like stereotypical, but you can do some really, really great, like our deep roast smooth makes like the most banging satay imaginable. Gusto, one of our partners, did this as a PB&J burger, but it was like, again, another level. I'll send you the link to that, but that's one of their most successful recipes to date.
Is that right?
And then you've got kind of like the Mexican stuff. So there's a sauce called peanut butter mole, which has kind of been championed by a chef called Sam Granger. He's based up north. He runs like 6-7 restaurants. But all of this stuff the foundation is in, I learned the other year, like food pairing principles.
Yeah.
And there's three principles. So you've got connect, contrast, and cut. So connect is about like combining things which are similar. So that's like beef and red wine. Peanut butter, just classic, like has undergone like the browning effect, Maillard reaction, Maillard reaction, such a word to say. Yeah. And so that's why typically you see it in dishes with like soy sauce, toast, bacon. You then got contrast, and so our peanut butter is generally like drying, quite savory. So if you chuck it with stuff that's wetting, spicy, or sweet, that's perfect. And then cut is basically acid through fat. So if you squeeze lime and lemon on any dish with peanut butter, it's delicious.
Yeah.
So like learning about those three things has like changed my life in the kitchen. I'm now like a pretty good chef, whereas before I was rubbish.
Well, funny enough, I use your dark deep roast, sorry, as part of a Thai peanut dipping sauce with all of those things, actually, with soy, with a bit of rice vinegar, some brown sugar, chili, garlic, fresh lime, a little bit of root ginger, those types of things.
Yeah, exactly. Like ginger cuts through. Yeah, it's like anything that's like, again, like a bit of a naff web, but zesty is just perfect.
Yeah.
Charles, we're naturals. This is great.
A little bit of grated lime zest in it as well.
Yeah,
really
exactly.
brings it alive. You've won 3. A number of your products actually have won 3 great taste stars. What do those kind of awards mean? How do they provide a platform for you?
It's actually pretty amazing. So I'm not sure how much you or your audience know about the Great Taste Awards, but every year, like 15,000 products are entered into this awards, and it's pure taste. There's no branding. Of those 15,000, I think like just over 1% of the products win 3 Great Taste Stars, and those 15,000 are like self-selecting anyway. So we have 3 products that are in like the top 0.01% of products in the UK for quality, which is great because it's recognised and like probably helps us sell more. But it's also a benchmark that we set ourselves. So we want every product that ManiLife makes to have 3 Great Taste Stars eventually. So it's like just to keep driving little improvements.
Yeah, that's your benchmark.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because you speak to people who've entered these awards year after year, and they're just like, "How on earth you do it?" And like, so it's cool. We're pretty chuffed.
It's the ManiLife magic.
Exactly.
Retail and direct to consumer obvious channels for you, but you touched on a few moments ago collaborations and kind of emerging channels. How do you kind of leverage that? Because you're far beyond just a retail brand.
Oh, you're right. We're multi-channel, so we're retail, we're direct to consumer, online, we're in recipe boxes, we're in food service, so that's like out of home, places like Costa. I think the key kind of collaboration ingredient is just working with people or brands that are like-minded.
Yeah.
And then there's various levels. So you've got like at the bottom, you've got social media, which we do lots of. At the top, you've got like product collaborations. And then in between, you've got kind of various bits and bobs. So if we use the Gusto example, Gusto, like really good channel, makes so much sense, foodie. We've been their peanut butter for like 6 years. The PB&J ManiLife Gusto burger was like the kind of the pinnacle of that, and we just want to keep doing stuff like that.
And working with chefs as well. I mean, that brings a real, I guess, a culinary credibility to what you do, and again helps tell that story, particularly around application beyond breakfast and those types of things as well.
Exactly, and it's also really fun. So a couple of years ago, we did a menu takeover of a restaurant called Labab, from a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And it was just like a month where ManiLife branding was on the walls. We took all our customers, many of our like top consumers. We had a big dinner, and it's just the best. Like we want to do way more of that. Eventually 4 a year, but right now we'll maybe on 1 a year.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to ask you a little bit about impact, and obviously you're a conscious brand, and you talked about that right at the beginning. But how does your work with the people along the supply chain? How do you mitigate your impact on the environment? I mean, you're obviously you're taking raw material from South America and bringing it over here. How do you kind of consider impact more broadly, I guess?
So this is quite interesting. To date, we've really just operated on the principle of doing the right thing.
Yeah.
It was only when we started our B Corp process, and you get points for this stuff, that we realized we're actually doing some quite special stuff.
Yeah.
I think the score we're going to get is like insane. So I guess if you start at origin, our estate, they convert all the peanut shells from harvest into energy in a zero waste process. So that innovation has brought the local towns from 100 power cuts a year to none. It's insane.
Yeah.
So I believe they're now carbon positive. We obviously ship the product, we don't fly it, but that's not a big deal. In the UK, there's a few things we do. So our packaging, we're always trying to take packaging out, but our mini pots, we use a plastic which is injected with something called PETAs, which means it's fully recycled. It's made from fully recycled material. It's fully recyclable, and it biodegrades in landfill faster than a twig. So it's like pretty special stuff. And then from a people perspective, we're just like really good to our people. So we've got good maternity policy, better than normal paternity policy. We've got 2 kids, just help with that one. We offer like 28 days holiday plus bank holidays. We've got health insurance. Like it's all just trying to do the right thing, I guess.
And I guess that from the people point of view, that also goes back up the supply chain as well.
For sure. I think one of the things that we treat our suppliers and our consumers pretty well. So we've worked with the same roastery, same estate, same label manufacturer, more or less since I started the business.
Yeah.
Our first order to the roastery was, I think it was 70 kilos. We now do 60 tons a month, which is it's awesome. And then consumers, it's just investing in those little moments. So no complaint goes unanswered. No email thus far has gone unanswered, but we're getting quite a few now, so that may change.
No complaints gone unanswered by you, which is
exactly.
I've got to ask you, incredible journey up until this point, but where and what is next, for ManiLife?
Kind of as we've touched on, it's just like level up the foodie elements. So that's things like this recipe book. A lot of that's going to span into innovation. So traditionally we haven't actually innovated that much, but we're going to go we're going to go a lot wider, which I'm really excited about. And then it's something like basically more collabs with restaurants. From a like fundamental business perspective, there's a lot of people that should be sharing ManiLife with their customers that aren't. So that's Tesco, Morrison's, Asda. And then we have a mega opportunity on the continent that we've kind of just stumbled into by accident. We built pretty substantial business in Germany without loads of kind of investment or time. So we're going to put a lot more into that. Basically, we want to be the UK's favorite peanut butter in 3 years.
Yeah, exciting. That's
mega exciting.
So whether that's geographies, product innovation, I mean, thinking about the brand, actually, there's lots of different places that you could brand, isn't there? Beyond the jar. I mean, that's
beyond just spreads. Exactly. It's so exciting to like, we want to get peanut butter out the spreads aisle. We're obviously launching a range of peanuts. There's more flavor innovations we can do. And then there's just this like specials piece. So last month we did a Mother's Day special called ManiLife.
Yeah.
And people just absolutely loved it. So more of that kind of stuff. And that's my job now, which is cool.
Super exciting. Can't wait to see it. And lastly, we're all about shifting the future of food and drink, and this is all about talking to businesses and entrepreneurs that are doing that. How do you think, in your way, either individually as Stu Macdonald, or indeed as the brand, you're doing your bit to shift the future of food and drink?
It's funny, as like a stoic Brit, my gut response to that is like, we're just making really good peanut butter. But I think there's maybe a few things. So by making a product so delicious that's good for you, we're moving people away from kind of rubbish to good, like real food. By positioning peanut butter as an ingredient and aligning ourselves to meal times as opposed to snacking, we're helping bring people together, which I think is like actually really important. And I think a lot of society's problems are as much around what we eat as much around how we eat as what we eat. By sharing the stories of our supply chain, we're getting people to have like a better emotional connection with food and understand where it's from. Very excited, we were talking about this earlier, that we are about to kick off a partnership with an amazing charity called Chefs in Schools. And their reason for being is basically getting kids to eat better, but also interact with food better. So basically, just quick rundown of what they do. They put trained chefs into schools to teach the school cooks how to cook properly from like scratch cook. And the thing which is awesome is all the teachers at these schools sit with the kids at lunchtime, which creates a bit of ceremony. So yeah, it's all foodie world basically, which is quite cool.
Absolutely. I have to say I'm super excited about the work you're doing with Chefs in Schools. I mean, many of our audience will know that they're a Food People Foundation charity partner, so it's great to hear about the work that you're doing with them. That's fantastic. Stu, that concludes this episode of the Food People in Conversation with. On behalf of everyone at the Food People and the In Conversation with audience, thank you so much for joining me today, for sharing the ManiLife story so far. Feels like there's an awful lot to come. It's been a real eye-opener and, of course, a real pleasure to speak to you. So thanks for joining.
Charles, thanks very much. Likewise, really enjoyed it. And I hope to see you in real life soon.
Yeah, most definitely. That's brilliant. Thanks, Stu. So do join our TFP community for the details of our latest In Conversation with episodes, as well as the latest free-to-access food and drink trends foresight. Visit thefoodpeople.co.uk and complete your details at the footer of the page. On behalf of Stu and myself, thanks for listening to the Food People in Conversation with. Join with us and the trends of today and tomorrow to shift the future of food and drink. And I'll leave you with one question that I started this episode with, and that is, how are you shifting the future of food and drink? Thanks for listening.